UFC on Fox 31 is headlined by a rematch in the lightweight division, which will see the winner being propelled into the top 5 of arguably the most stacked division in mixed martial arts today. And I am, of course, talking about Iaquinta taking on Kevin Lee in the rematch. This happens December 15th in Milwaukee on UFC on Fox 31. But before I get into the match prediction and analysis, I want to tell you guys that if you're liking the video, liking the channel, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already. We post prediction videos, we post analysis videos, and we also have a podcast where we have journalists and fighters and everything in between within the MMA world. But you don't care about that stuff. You want to know on who is going to win between these two guys in the rematch. And we're going to start off with Kevin, the Motown Phenom Lee. And what's there to say about Kevin? He's 26 years old. He is, of course, from Michigan, United States. He is 5 foot 9 inches tall. And he holds an impressive professional record of 17 wins, 3 losses. This will be his 21st fight against Al. Obviously in the top 5. Or I should rather say, he is on the border of top 5 in the lightweights. Now, Kevin Lee has fought the best of the best. He has come close to beating Tony Ferguson, who is arguably the number 2 ranked lightweight in the world, number 1 being Khabib. And if you think of who else is in that division, a few names that pop out, you have Khabib, you have Tony, Conor, McGregor, Dustin Poirier, you have Kevin Lee, you have Justin Gaethje, James Vick, Al Iaquinta, and the list really goes on and on. So seeing a fight between these two will definitely separate themselves and put the winner in a position to challenge for the championship. Kevin Lee, isn't a knockout or TKO artist. Out of his 17 wins, only 2 of them have come by that method. He is more of a submission stylist or a long decision stylist. So 47% of his victories come by submission, while 41% come by decision. And he has lost in every way possible. He's been knocked out, he's been submitted, and he's lost via decision. But let's go and look deeper into the man known as the Motown Phenom. His first fight in the UFC was actually a match against Al Iaquinta. But let's look at the fights he had beforehand. And he went 7-0, spanning from 2012. He got picked up after his first full year of professional fighting by the UFC. And if you look at his, past 7 fights, his first 3 came by decision, and his later 4 came by submission via, standing guillotine, armbar, rear naked choke, and again a guillotine, all within, a pretty relatively fast time. You have 2 first rounds, a second round, and a later 3rd round guillotine submission. So his first UFC debut did not go as planned. He took on Al Iaquinta in February 1st, 2014. And Al got the best of him in a decision. Now, a lot of things can happen to the Motown Phenom at that point. It was his first loss professionally. He definitely learned a lot from himself. He learned a lot from the different level, from where he came from, fighting on regional circuits to fighting on the biggest circuit of them all, obviously being the UFC. Since that, he went on an impressive 4-fight win streak, beating the likes of John Tuck, Michael Prazeres, and James Montessari. James he beat via rear naked choke in the first round. And the previous 3 were all by decision. In the first fight after Al Iaquinta, he beat Jesse Ronson via split decision. So a little bit close, a little bit tight, but nevertheless, he definitely kept his reputation as a prospect to watch in the lightweight division, racking up 4 victories. But then he took on Leonardo Santos. Now, if you guys know Santos at all, you know that this guy is a savage. He is no joke. And considering that Kevin Lee was 4-1 at this point in the UFC, it looked like the UFC was looking to really separate Santos and Kevin Lee with whoever the winner would be. Santos got the victory. It was a TKO early on. It only took 3 minutes to Santos to put away Kevin Lee. That was the most pivotal match in Kevin Lee's career at that point. He has never been finished previously. He lost a decision to Al, and that was the first time where he was outclassed in every sort of way. Kevin Lee was not able to establish his control, never clinched, and Santos just picked him apart and really put him away early on and just made Kevin Lee look really, really bad. Kevin Lee, being the fighter that he is, being the elite grappler, elite athlete that he is, picked himself up and really went on to win 5 fights in a row. Beat Efren Escudero, beat Jake Matthews, who's a bigger lightweight, beat Magomed Mustafaev, beat Francisco Trinaldo, and he beat Michael Chiesa in the second round. It was a bit of a controversial stoppage by Mario Yamasaki, But the fact of it was, even if Mario Yamasaki didn't really make that call and let the fight go on, Kevin Lee was in a pure dominant position. So with, looking at Kevin Lee's career at this point, he has 3 losses, but he has an outstanding 9 wins. So he's 9-3 in the UFC at this point in his UFC career. His next match, it was originally supposed to be Tony Ferguson versus Khabib for the interim title. If you guys recall, that was back in 2017. But Khabib fell ill due to his weight cut. Dehydrations, kidneys stopped working, liver problems, so he's pulled from the card on a very, very short notice. Cue in, game ready, opportunistic Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee stepped up to the plate, made weight, but unfortunately had a staph infection, which was extremely visible when he began his walkout to the octagon. It was right across his chest, and for those of you who haven't had staph before or are unaware of what it is a skin infection that not only makes the area more sensitive to damage, but it just drains you. And especially considering the fact that Kevin Lee was making a cut to 155, the most draining part of training camp, it was just a double whammy, and Kevin Lee was definitely not 100%. But in that fight with Tony Ferguson on short notice, they went 3 rounds. It was back and forth. Kevin Lee was on top, full mount on a few occasions. Tony Ferguson never really looked crisp and clean on the feet. Kevin Lee looked very stable and very comfortable with all the things going on. However, the fight did end with Tony Ferguson wrapping up a triangle choke on Kevin Lee, submitting him for the first submission loss of his career. Nothing really to look bad about. Really, I mean, it would have looked monumentally huge if Kevin Lee was to win and beat Tony Ferguson, but nevertheless, this was a great show and a great appearance and really a great introduction into the top 5 of lightweights in the UFC. Kevin Lee came back and he was able to beat Edson Barboza via 5th round TKO stoppage in a very, very one-sided beatdown. Edson Barboza before that lost a very similar style fight to Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Kevin Lee came and just regurgitated that same blueprint, mobilized his stand-up. He did get caught with a high kick, a spinning high kick that really wobbled Kevin Lee, almost knocked him out, but Kevin Lee, being the IQ, almost instinctual fighter, went for a double leg, took him down, and cruised to that TKO stoppage that he is so good at, that he is his bread and butter. He can hit you, he can knock you out, a few power punches, but his game plan is to take you down, grind you out, pound you out, look for the submission, or get the decision. If you flip over to his fight metrics, Kevin the Motown Phenom, a lot of surprises here. Now, like I previously said, he is a grappler style of fighter. He likes to take you down, beat you down, wear you down. However, if you look at his significant strikes landed per minute, an impressive 4.06 against some of the best strikers in the division. We talked about Jake Matthews. We talked about Edson Barboza, Tony Ferguson. The list goes on and on. Iaquinta in his first appearance in the UFC. So that stat is very impressive. Striking accuracy, a very, very formidable 45%. Again, you got to consider the fact that these guys are fighting with the best of the best. 45% is not a failure. It's not below 50 you're failing. 45%, it's actually a very stable, very respectable number in terms of striking for a guy who doesn't come from a striking background. Significant strikes absorbed per minute. Now, this is a bit of a red flag for me. 2.96. That is a higher number considering the fact the lightweights in the UFC only really require sometimes one punch to knock you out or to wobble you, stun you, whatever you want. Taking 3 significant strikes per minute against these killers at this level could be problematic, especially considering the fact that he's fighting Iaquinta. However, that number could be worse. So Motown Phenom has to work on really getting his head out of dangerous zones, getting his body out of dangerous zones, and really controlling the distance from his opponent's striking. And his striking defense is a very good 52%. But the highlight of Kevin Lee definitely comes from his grappling and his takedowns. So he lands a takedown average of 3.33. Now that is per 15 minutes. So in a regular 3-round fight, he lands almost 3 1/3 takedowns, so 3 takedowns, which is very impressive, 1 per round. Typically keeps them there. His takedown accuracy, lower than what I expected, is 42%. I suspect that he goes and attempts lots of takedowns. He's constantly grappling, constantly grinding you against the fence. So that's probably why that accuracy is not higher. His takedown defense is a very impressive 75%. This guy is a collegiate wrestler, background in wrestling, so it's a bit harder to take him down. He's a stockier build, and his submission average is a pretty high 1.1, all things considered. But Kevin Lee has a very tough opponent, a guy who has previously beat him, And I'm talking about Iaquinta. And what is really there to say about Al? This guy is from New York. This guy is a real estate agent who can kick your ass on the side. This guy's game ready. This guy's legit. This guy doesn't get enough credit as he deserves. He's 31 years old, so he's 5 years older than Kevin Lee. Stands at 5'7". Fights out of Cerro Longo Fight Team. Holds a professional record of 13 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw. This guy is legit. Look at his UFC career. Never an easy fight. Always took the big fights. Always took a harder fight. Surprisingly got into the Ultimate Fighter on a loss. But that was back when the Ultimate Fighter was a little bit more prestigious in the talent. Now it's a little bit less. But still saying that the talent the Ultimate Fighter brings is top notch. Fight in the UFC was a tough finale. This was Team Lesnar, I believe. And Michael Chiesa was just able to submit him. Rear naked choke. A very simple victory there. But he did the best that he can. Obviously referring to Iaquinta. Picked up 3 wins over Ryan Couture, Poirier, Hallman, and of course Kevin Lee, all by unanimous decision. He did lose again to Mitch Clark via a Bravo choke. That was in the second round. So you see a little bit of a susceptibility here to submissions, which is actually pretty surprising considering they trained so closely to Matt Serra. But since that Bravo choke loss, this guy went on a tear, beating Rodrigo Dam, Ross Pearson, Joe Lozon, Jorge Masvidal, and then finishing up nicely with a first round TKO victory over Diego Sanchez back in 2017. Now, going on a 5-fight win streak, he finally got his chance at a top 8 opponent in Paul Felder, and that was supposed to be a UFC 223 headlined by Khabib versus Tony. Now, like I just previously said when I was making my analysis about Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson pulled out this time due to an injury where he tripped over a cord, and no one was able to answer the call. Of course, we had Max Holloway, but he was deemed unhealthy to fight Khabib, thankfully so. And so what happened? In less than 24 hours, Iaquinta stepped up and is taking on Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, I talked to Ray Longo about this. They had no game plan. A completely different fight from Paul Felder to Khabib Nurmagomedov. They ran maybe a few takedown defenses. He trained for a 3-round war. He got himself a 5-round war instead. Here, it says Iaquinta is 5'9", so a bit of a discrepancy here. Let's just call him 5'8". Really, with Iaquinta, he's a game-ready dog. You know, he doesn't stand out in any discipline. He's not an elite striker. He's not an elite grappler. But he's just a game-ready guy that's going to fight with his heart out. He's going to give you a tougher opponent than you initially thought. And he's going to make sure that if you're going to beat him, you got to work for it. So significant strikes land per minute, an impressive 4.28 with an accuracy of 40% to boot. Those are pretty top 15 numbers right there. Higher elite numbers, of course. Significant strikes absorbed per minute. Too high, in my opinion. 4 is too high, especially if you're going to climb this ladder to fight tougher and tougher opponents against, Justin Gaethje, against Dustin Poirier, against whoever it may be. That is a very dangerous stat to have. Striking defense, it is a more impressive 62%. That striking defense is helpful with the fact that he absorbs so many punches, but still, that is something that he wants to keep improving on and decreasing his absorbed per minute. Takedown average doesn't even land 1 takedown per fight. This guy doesn't go for a takedown, simple as that. And by virtue, takedown average 28%, extremely low. I don't know if he attempts takedowns, doesn't get them, but the fact is, isn't successful with his takedowns. But his takedown defense, 77%. And let's just go back to the people he fought, okay? Takedown defense, 77% after fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov, after fighting Joe Lozon, after fighting Kevin Lee, Ryan Couture, and Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa, Kevin Lee, and Khabib are some of the highest level of wrestling that you can see in the lightweight rankings. For him to maintain a takedown defense of 77%, I truly believe Iaquinta's takedown defense may be some of the best in the division. Now, I just want to finish off this video by talking about a side-by-side comparison and then finally making my prediction. So, tail of the tape right here, we have the records, we have the average fight time, super similar. Height is identical according to Topology. Reach, 7-inch reach advantage for Kevin Lee, which will definitely play into his favor considering the striking portion. both orthodox. Kevin Lee is 5 years younger than Iaquinta. Look at the striking category. They land, a pretty decent similar amount. Striking accuracy, Kevin Lee's more accurate. Strikes absorbed. Iaquinta significantly absorbs almost one full strike per minute than Kevin Lee. Coupled with the 7-inch reach advantage, that could spell disaster for Al. Defense, Al's defense is 10% better, which is quite significant. And grappling, the only stat that stands out here is the 77% takedown defense for Al Iaquinta. Everything else seems to go for Kevin Lee. Now, my prediction for this is very metric-based, but it's also very rational. Kevin Lee, I believe, has improved more so than Al Iaquinta. And the fact that Al hasn't gotten a rebound fight after Khabib, I don't know where he is right now, because after the loss to Tony Ferguson, Kevin Lee was given a fight against Edson Barboza where he looked dominant. He looked completely new, very impressive, and got the W, while Al Iaquinta is still lingering from that beatdown received from Khabib. 7-inch reach advantage. The fact that Al absorbs more significant strikes than Kevin Lee, and also the fact that Kevin Lee seems to be more dominant in the grappling aspect, it should say that Kevin Lee should get this victory. However, my gut instinct and the fact that I think Al Iaquinta's takedown defense is highly underappreciated, undervalued, and the fact that he stays in the pocket and isn't afraid to go in deep waters, I will give this fight to Al Iaquinta via a 4th round stoppage by TKO or a unanimous decision victory. But that's all I have for this video. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe if you liked what you watch. Comment on who you think is going to win. Do you think Al Iaquinta is going to make it 2-0? Or do you think Kevin Lee is going to even up the score and make it 1-1? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. And have an excellent day. Peace.